Hello, and welcome to the next installment of the Andy Warhol Diary and the old Razzle Dazzle. Sorry it took so long to get this one up. I've had quite a couple of weeks, including ending up in the emergency room with a UTI, and my second job really kicking into high gear. So I'm working a lot. But I managed to get this thing together, and I wanted to present it before it started getting too late in the month. My son and I did try to get StreamYard working, but there's something up with my account where it's pointing to like the wrong account. So I figured I would just record the video with StreamYard and then upload it separately. And when you get to that screen, if you're on StreamYard where it asks you like what site you want to stream to, makes you pick a platform. It just kept spinning for like 4 hours, and like the icons never popped up for me to like choose that I wanted to use YouTube as the platform. So I gave up. We're back to just doing it on screen, and this is how we're gonna do it. So welcome to Friday, November 26, 1976. We're doing the Andy Warhol Diary. Andy is still in Chatsford, Pennsylvania, and we're gonna look at what Andy Warhol was doing that day. And when I first read this entry in the Andy Warhol Diary, it was only 3 paragraphs, and I figured, well, we're not going to have that much to talk about. But yeah, we actually have a lot going on this day. Andy did not slow down, and he made the most of his visits to Chatsford, Pennsylvania. So, of course, before we get started with that, I just have a PFA, which is a plea for assistance in the murder of my uncle, Charles Pancheri. He was found in the kitchen of his home on Green Street in Elizabeth, New Jersey on October 4th, 2011. It was thought that it was a robbery gone bad, but they can't confirm that. There was a ladder leaning against his back window. Now, my uncle was in his 70s. There's no reason for him to have a ladder at the back window. He's not going to be climbing in through his window. So neighbors did think that was suspicious, but so far there have been no leads, and the case is considered closed. However, when I spoke to the detective, they told me they would gladly reopen the case if some new information were to be submitted. So I've come to you to ask you, if you have any information on this, please call Crime Stoppers at 908-654-TIPS. That's 908-654-8477. Or you can go to www.uctip.org. That's unioncountytip.org. If you have any information, I would very much appreciate it. So let's take a look at what Andy was doing on November 26, 1976. So Andy and his friends are still in Chatsford, Pennsylvania for the Thanksgiving weekend. And on this day, they took a tour of the Winter Thur Museum in Wilmington, Delaware in the morning. Winter Thur is a 175-room house filled with decorative objects and arranged according to its visionary, Henry Francis DuPont. Now, we met a DuPont yesterday at Thanksgiving. We met Frolic Weymouth, who is related to the DuPont family through his mother, Dulcina Deo Ophelia Payne DuPont. That's not to be confused with Ophelia Payne, who is a pretty famous drag queen, which I found out in researching this. Now, Henry Francis DuPont lived in the home with his family for a while. It has 1,000 acres of protected meadows, woodland, ponds, and waterways, and the garden itself takes up 60 acres. And you can go to the website and look around. You can book a self-paced house tour if you go there, and it seems like really nice. This is in the spring and summer, this picture. Andy went there in the winter. So there's what it might have looked like around the time when Andy visited, snow covered. Now, Andy states that Phyllis Wyeth, who is the wife of Jamie Wyeth, he states Phyllis Wyeth got the buggy together. And I was really puzzled by this. Like, is he talking about a car? Is he referring to like maybe Weymouth got his horse and carriage out? Because Weymouth was very well known for being a whip that is like a person who drives horses and pulls a carriage. But it turns out that Andy may have been referring to Phyllis's motorized wheelchair that she had used after a life-changing head-on collision when she was 20 years old, and the accident left her permanently paralyzed from the waist down. And after I read this kind of made sense to me, because Andy has this way of using language to like cover up something that he considers uncomfortable. Like, especially with his wig wearing, he would never say that he was putting on his wig. He would say, "I'm not ready yet, I have to glue." Like, that was like code word for, I need to glue my wig on, but he would never say the word wig. Also, when discussing homosexuality, Andy would never refer to a person as gay. He would refer to them as having a problem. Like, "Oh, those two would be so cute together, but unfortunately, he has a problem." He would never say that person is gay. So when he called it a buggy, it made perfect sense to me that that's how he referred it. After coming back, they had an all-American breakfast, and Andy fed his two dachshunds, Archie and Amos, and they went everywhere with him. So you can see right here the picture with Jed. I love this picture, actually. It's such a nice, candid moment. I'm not sure if that's Archie or Amos that Jed is holding, but both of his dachshunds went everywhere with him, including to Europe and anywhere and everywhere, and they ate really well. Andy was always giving them table scraps. He would order steaks at restaurants to bring them home for them. He would give them caviar, and he really spoiled them. I really like this picture of those two together. After breakfast, the group went for a ride across the Brandywine River, and Andy remarked that the river didn't seem so deep. So here we have a picture. You can see right here, I indicated in red, that's where Chad's Ford is, and the Brandywine like runs up this way. I couldn't get any depth measurements on the Brandywine because it depends on what section of the river you're going into, so it varies along the path. But here you can see a train bridge and a picture of the river and the surrounding grounds. It's really beautiful. We then have Jed Johnson taking a ride out to meet people at the train station, and I'm assuming they would be joining the Wyeth group at their residence. So Jed, of course, he ran all of Andy's errands for him, and actually everybody ran Andy's errands for them. So the people that were picked up include, we have Vincent Fremont there on the left. Vincent was the one-time manager of Andy's studio and former vice president of Andy Warhol Enterprises, and he's also one of the founding directors of the Andy Warhol Foundation that was created after Andy's death. He's pictured there with his wife, Shelly. Shelly was Vincent's wife, who, along with Vincent, co-directed and co-produced Pie in the Sky, the Bridget Berlin story. Both Vincent and Shelly appear in the Netflix docuseries, The Andy Warhol Diaries. On the right, we have Ronnie Cutrone and his then-wife, Gigi Williams. Ronnie started off as a go-go dancer in the East Village and also performed with the Velvet Underground. Ronnie was Warhol's studio assistant from 1972 to 1982, and Ronnie considered Andy as a second father. He and Gigi eventually divorced and then remarried a second time. Gigi was a makeup artist and was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Makeup and Hairstyling for the film Mank, M-A-N-K. Gigi is featured in the Netflix docuseries The Andy Warhol Diaries, discussing Valerie Solanas. Now, Ronnie passed away in 2013. An acquaintance of Ronnie named Hiram Noel Mendez went to Ronnie's house to check on him and found Ronnie unresponsive on the floor. Mendez stole some artwork from the home before alerting authorities a few hours later. Friends of Ronnie noticed some art missing, and Mendez was charged with a second-degree burglary, and that's according to the New York Post. Andy then went with Jamie Wyeth to the Brandywine Museum, where they had a press conference and took photos. The cocktail party back at the Wyeth house came afterwards, and Andy noticed the former owner of his home on East 66th Street was in attendance. Andy bought the townhouse from Mrs. Bartow for about $310,000. and Jed ran his interior decorating business from one of the upstairs rooms. This more than 3,000 square foot townhome was worth more than $4 million in 2011, per a New York Magazine article. The annual taxes were about $20,000. In March, the house was being sold for almost $7 million per the News and Insights website. Now, I was able to find some pictures from the article. So here we have Andy and part of his townhome. I'm assuming this is after Andy lived there and they redecorated it. But it's very clean. It's very white, a lot different than I pictured it. If you can't read the bottom script, it says, the home was designed by the celebrated architect Henry Hardenberg, who designed the plaza and the Dakota building. And this is from the Realtor.com website. And that script on the bottom says, the sleek kitchen whose floor is tinted green with Andy Warhol's paint. So Andy actually painted in this townhouse, and the floors are stained with the paint that he used. This one says, an office space also seems to have paint streaks from Andy Warhol's time on its floor. It's very nice. Mrs. Bartow asked Andy when he was going to sandblast the exterior, and she wanted to know why he was never home, as the house always looked dark. A few more people who came to this cocktail party was, on the left, we have Carter Brown, aka Carter Burden. Carter was a New York City councilman who was a contributor to the arts, and he also founded Commodore Media, who owns and operates 20 radio stations at that time. Warhol did a portrait of Carter, which was commissioned to raise funds for Carter's campaign, which he ended up winning. Also along at the cocktail party was Baby Jane Holzer and all of her hair. She was an American art collector and real estate investor, as well as an actress, model, and film producer. Jane is considered to be among the first Warhol superstars. The baby nickname comes from the movie Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Also at this party was Bob Denison, an investment banker. He was dating Jane Holzer and all of her hair until 1979. Bob received a unique screen print from Andy's dollar sign series in 1981. The artwork was later sold by Bob's estate. He looks very regretful that he sold it. The last paragraph of the diary has Andy telling a confusing story about misintroducing a woman as a man, and then telling this guy, Andy doesn't specify which guy, which it may have been redacted by Pat Hackett, or the person didn't want to be identified. So Andy told this guy that this woman was really a drag queen, which wasn't true. The person Andy was talking to was very excited to meet a real drag queen, which she wasn't a drag queen. The guy really liked this woman, but he only liked her because he was under the impression that she was a drag queen. I'm pretty sure that I was able to explain that. And that pretty much wraps up Andy's day after Thanksgiving. So now we're going to move on to this day in history. This day in history, the Sex Pistols released their debut single, Anarchy in the USA. I'm also a fan of the cover version by Megadeth from 1988, but John Lydon and Johnny Rotten did not seem to like the cover version. Also on this day, whoops, I went backwards. Also on this day, two nerds, Paul Allen and Bill something, officially registered the trademark Microsoft in New Mexico. You might have heard of it. Also on this day, Ringo Starr released his Hey Baby cover and it was a cover of Bruce Chanel's early 1960s hit. Also on this day, the band Queen attended a reception to promote their new album, A Day at the Races, at their London studio. What's your favorite song off this one? For me, I think it's number 8, Good Old Fashioned Lover Boy. I always go for the deep cuts. Also on this day, convicted 2-time murderer Gary Gilmore had won the right to be executed as he has requested. He had a choice of a firing squad or a hanging. He was executed by firing squad the following January, even though the ACLU considered execution to be cruel and unusual punishment, and they granted Gary a stay of execution. Gary thought the ACLU wanted notoriety for themselves versus truly wanting to help his case, just to get them in the news. His life and execution were the subject of a 1979 nonfiction book called The Executioner's Song. Interestingly, Nike Corporation has credited its inspiration for its catchphrase, "Just do it," on the last words of Gary Gilmore, which were, "Let's do it." And also on this day, the Ebola outbreak ends. According to the WHO, the World Health Organization, they confirmed that the first ever pandemic of the Ebola virus had been contained. The outbreak in Sudan and Zaire had killed a reported 280 people. And that's going to do it for this stream. I thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. We'll be looking at the day after Thanksgiving. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time. MUBBO.